Hi, I'm Dave from boinaband.com, and welcome to my 7-day song tutorial on Darkstep drum and bass, where I'll be taking you through the process of making a Darkstep song from scratch over OMGZ 7 days. At the end, I'll post the finished song, and you guys can post your completed songs as video responses. Darkstep is a minor, evil-sounding subgenre of drum and bass that some of you might know as Neurofunk, Darkcore, or Techstep, and some of you might not know of it at all and wonder what the hell all those words I just said mean. In which case, don't worry, at least your career doesn't depend on you having to pretend you understand what they mean. This is a sponsored 7-day song, meaning someone paid to have this genre covered. If you would like me to cover a 7-day song of a specific genre of electronic music, check out the custom video tutorials page in the services section on boinaband.com. In this Reason For tutorial, I'll go through things like making a beat, a positively disgusting Reese-based synth, leads, atmospheres, effects, arrangement of a conventional Darkstep song, and mixing and mastering. Now this is the 7th 7-day song, so be sure to check out the other ones too. And also I encourage you to post your tracks on the boinaband.com forum and share your music, make some friends, and learn more about production. In day 1, I'll be teaching you how to make a punchy Darkstep DnB beat, with techniques like using layering, interesting syncopations, EQing, and tube distortion to build a driving basis to your track. Okay, let's begin. So we'll start by setting the tempo here to 170 BPM. Darkstep is generally between about 150 and 180 BPM, so DnB DJs don't have too much trouble mixing it together. I've found Darkstep tends to be a bit faster than conventional drum and bass though. Right-click and create a mixer 14:2 and a combinator that we're going to put our first drum loop in. Let's name it Beat. This has nothing to do with it being the drum beat, it relates to how it's going to sound like it's beating you over the head repeatedly. Inside the combinator, right-click and create an instance of Scream 4, but hold Shift while you create it so it doesn't automatically connect to the combinator at the back. Bypass it so it's not on at the moment, we'll be dealing with this a bit later. Then create a line mixer 6:2, slightly smaller mixer, and a redrum drum computer. Now if we press tab, we can link them all up at the back. We've got the redrum instance going into the mixer going to Scream 4, and then we take Scream 4 into the combinator. Now, I'll load up a drum kit I made for this tutorial. If you don't know how to load samples into Reason, then check out my tutorial on how to load samples into Reason. Then you'll know how to load samples into Reason. Okay, so I've got a load of samples here in Reason. These are all free from my drum and bass sample pack that you can find on boinaband.com, except for this hat, which is from my Electro House sample pack, and this ride cymbal, which is from the Reason Factory sound bank. So let's go through the samples now. We've got 2 kicks, 3 snares, 2 hats, and a ride. The 2 kicks are not going to be layered on this occasion. I'll be alternating between them to make the percussion seem to flow faster. This bassier, punchier one will be the main kick, with this airier one being the extra percussive element. Next up are the snares. Hard, punchy low-end snare, snappy high-end snare, and the lo-fi little snare that we'll use for the ghost notes. Watch the original 7-day song drum and bass tutorial if you don't know what ghost notes are. We'll be layering the first 2 into a snare that has the punch from the first snare and the snap and tone from the second snare. Lastly, we've got those hi-hats. We'll be alternating between these really fast to create a fast overtone to the beat. The ride is going to be just consistent on every beat, just to drive things along that bit more. Okay, so let's make that syncopation. Starting with the channel 1 kick selected, put a beat on 1, 9, and 11. The conventional drum and bass beat of the is just the 1 and 11, but I want to make the beat a bit more driving, so by bringing that kick down every 2 beats, it makes a consistency that drives it without being so many kicks that it starts to feel like a dance tune. So, let's right-click and copy the pattern to track, and look at the Reason sequencer. Name the note lane kick, and right-click and create a new note lane. We're going to call this one snare, not snare, snare. Then head back into redrum, and to link the 2 snares together, so when you trigger this one, it triggers both at the same time, hit the tab key to look at the back, and take the gate out from channel 3 to the gate in on channel 4. Now, look what happens. Both are played at the same time. Sweet! That was a really high-pitched sweet. Anyway, Now select pattern 2. So we have a fresh new pattern that doesn't have the kicks we just programmed in, but if we need to, we can always go back to pattern 1 to get that pattern back for the kicks. And make sure you've got snare selected, channel 3. Let's put it on the 5 and 13. Right click and copy the pattern to the track. Disable the pattern section. Then let's take a listen. Conventional drum and bass, score! Now, you could copy that for 5 minutes and call it a minimal drum and bass song, or you can carry on watching for some advice on how to make it sound more interesting. Next, let's have a go with those ghost snares. Make sure you have a new note lane selected called Ghost Snare, so we'll create that now. Then make pattern 3 have steps 4, 8 and 10 highlighted with the channel 5 ghost snare. Incidentally, that seriously sounds like a superhero TV show. So, 4, 8 and 10. Then copy them to the track. Take a listen. This adds a bounciness to the beat. This is because when you have a percussive sound on the 1/16th before the on beat, it almost sounds like it's tripping into the on beat. And you can see we've done that here on the 4 and 8. Now it's time to learn a word if you don't know it already. Syncopation. It makes you sound smart if you overuse it, but all it means is a drum beat that isn't your conventional dance beat, with some unexpected rhythms in there, so every drum and bass song ever. That unusual syncopation from the ghost snare we just added makes the beat sound more filled out and driving. So, onwards. Let's add in that other kick before we forget about the poor thing. So select it, hit pattern 4, and change the number of steps to 32. On steps 1 to 16, add in the kick on the 3 and 9, and change the dynamic slider here to soft, and add one in on the 15 as well. This will just make that kick a bit quieter, adding a little bit more variety to the dynamic range of the beat. Move to steps 17 to 32 with the edit steps slider, turn dynamic back to medium, and let's add one in on 3 and 9 again, just leaving off that last beat. Now, let's copy it to a new note lane we're going to call kick 2. Right click, copy pattern to track, and take a listen. Let's take the level up a little bit so you can hear. Much more interesting, right? That extra kick gives it so much more syncopatey goodness, driving it along that bit more. Okay, so we're almost finished making the beat itself. Now it's time to add the high end. Let's start with the hi-hats. Make a new note lane called Fez. Why Fez, you ask? Because it's a hi-hat. Let's move on. Now we've got 2 different hi-hats. In a new pattern, and make sure you've got edit steps 1 to 16 selected, place one of the hi-hats on every even beat, and the other one on every odd beat. Now let's copy this to the track and see what it does. The alternating hats really make it seem faster. Lastly, let's make this ride symbol that we've got at the end a note lane, and call it ride. Pattern 6, select it, and just put it on the 1, 5, 9, and 13, and copy that to the track as well. Now take a listen to the finished syncopation. Pretty sweet, huh? Now, we're going to change the beat from this into this in part 2.